I should have died when the plasma charges detonated around us, and the facility's main structure collapsed. But instead, I found myself staring at this human warrior who refused to surrender even with half her squad dead and the installation burning around us. And that's when I realized she was protecting me, because humans don't break. The explosion had thrown us into this maintenance alcove beneath the facility's support beams. Emergency lighting cast everything in crimson shadows. The shadows matched the blood streaming from the gash across Marina's forehead. Kurith pressed her back against the corrugated metal wall. The cold surface bit through the gaps in her tactical suit. Her enhanced hearing picked up distant sounds. Collapsing corridors rumbled above them. Energy weapons cracked somewhere in the facility's upper levels. Marina's breathing came in short bursts. Each exhale created small puffs of vapor in the frigid air. Her tactical suit was torn across the left shoulder. Pale skin showed beneath the damaged fabric. Her blonde hair was matted with soot and debris from their desperate escape. The human turned toward Kurith. Her blue eyes reflected the emergency lighting with startling intensity. Something deep in the alien's core chambers fluttered unexpectedly. I've never seen a species recover from combat shock so quickly, Kurith thought. Her intricate black hair tendrils moved independently. They sampled the chemical signatures in the air around Marina. She couldn't stop them. The taste of Marina's fierce scent was sharp and clean, nothing like the cloying sweetness of enemy pheromones. This human fear was direct, honest, mixed with something else that made Kurith's dark skin patterns shift with recognition. Marina caught sight of the subtle patterns moving along Kurith's neck and arms. The darker pigmentation was visible even against her ebony skin. The patterns moved like living shadows beneath the red emergency lighting. "That's beautiful," Marina whispered. Her voice was hoarse from the smoke they'd inhaled during their escape. Kurith's skin patterns darkened involuntarily. They responded to the human's proximity. They responded to the unexpected warmth in her tone. "Among my people, these displays are considered intimate," Kurith replied. Her harmonic voice produced subtle undertones. Her species used these frequencies for close-range communication. The vibrations resonated through the small space. She watched Marina's pupils dilate slightly in response. The floor beneath them trembled. Another section of the facility collapsed somewhere above. A shower of dust and small debris fell through the ventilation grates. Marina moved closer, ostensibly to check the sealed access hatch behind Kurith, but the alien could smell the shift in her biochemistry as their proximity decreased to mere inches. "How long before they find us here?" Marina asked. Her eyes hadn't left Kurith's face since she'd moved closer. The alien could feel the warmth radiating from the human's body through their respective armor systems. "Unknown," Kurith replied. Her skin patterns were now shifting in a rhythm that matched Marina's elevated heart rate, a phenomenon she'd never experienced with any other species. The raiders are conducting systematic searches, but this section was damaged early in their assault. Her hair tendrils moved independently. Drawn by chemical signatures she was only beginning to understand. Marina reached up slowly. Her movements were deliberate and questioning. Her fingertips nearly touched one of Kurith's intricate black hair tendrils. The alien held perfectly still. Her entire sensory network focused on that point of potential contact. Her respiratory chambers worked overtime to process the complex mix of pheromones and emotional markers surrounding the human. "Will it hurt you if I?" Marina began. Her voice dropped to barely above a whisper. "No," Kurith replied, though she wasn't entirely certain what sensation the touch might produce. Her species rarely made physical contact with others, except during the most intimate bonding ceremonies, and never with alien species. "My nervous system is more complex than yours, but not more fragile." Marina's fingers made contact with the tip of one sensitized hair tendril. Kareth's entire body shuddered. Sensations she had no names for cascaded through her enhanced nervous system. The texture of human skin was rougher than she'd expected. Warmer, with microscopic ridges that her tactile sensors mapped in extraordinary detail. Through the contact, she could taste Marina's emotional state directly, not just the chemical markers in her scent. Something deeper and more immediate. The human's fascination was genuine, untainted by the revulsion or clinical detachment that Kareth had experienced from other species during diplomatic missions. Marina's other hand came up to frame Kareth's face. Her fingers carefully avoided the more sensitive hair tendrils. Her thumb traced the ridge of what humans might call a cheekbone, though the structure was fundamentally different from their own anatomy. "Your skin feels like warm velvet," Marina murmured. Her breath created small clouds in the cold air. The clouds carried her unique chemical signature directly to Kareth's olfactory centers. But alive. More alive than anything I've ever touched. Kareth's dark skin patterns shifted and deepened. Her body tried to process both the physical sensations and the emotional resonance she was picking up from Marina's touch. Among her people, such contact would have been the beginning of a lifelong neural bond, but she had no idea what it might mean to a human. The sound of approaching footsteps echoed in the corridor above. Heavy boots, too heavy to be human, accompanied by the distinctive harmonic whining of enemy scanning equipment. Marina's hand remained against Kareth's cheek, but her entire body tensed for action. "How many rounds do you have left?" Kareth whispered. Her voice produced subsonic frequencies that would be inaudible to enemy hearing ranges. 12, Marina replied without moving her lips. She had somehow learned to interpret Kareth's subsonic communication method. My bioweapon needs time to regenerate after the last engagement," Kareth replied. She referred to the organic energy projector integrated into her left arm. "Perhaps 15 minutes. The footsteps moved past their hiding spot without pausing, but both could hear the characteristic sound of raiders systematically checking each access point. They progressed down the main corridor. It wouldn't be long before they reached the maintenance hatch that provided the only exit from their current shelter. Marina's thumb continued its gentle movement along Kareth's cheek, as if the human was memorizing the texture and temperature through touch. The alien found herself leaning into the contact. Every tactical instinct demanded she maintain combat readiness. "In my culture," Kareth whispered, "touch like this creates permanent chemical bonds between individuals. Once established, we can sense each other's emotional states and general health across considerable distances." Marina's eyes widened slightly, but her hand didn't move away. "Are you saying we're bonding right now?" "I'm saying the process has already begun," Kareth replied. Her skin patterns now pulsed in perfect synchronization with Marina's heartbeat. "For my species, this is irreversible." Marina was quiet for several heartbeats. Kareth could taste the complex mixture of emotions in her scent: surprise, concern, and something deeper that made the alien's core temperature rise noticeably. "Good," Marina said finally. Her voice carried a note of fierce determination that Kareth had heard during their desperate fighting retreat through the facility. "I wasn't planning to let you go anyway." The intensity of Marina's emotional commitment hit Kareth like a physical force. It flooded her sensory systems with chemical markers that her species associated with permanent pair bonding. Her skin patterns shifted to deeper, richer configurations that she'd never produced before. Complex variations that among her people would announce to the world that she was no longer available for other partnerships. The footsteps returned. Closer now. This time they stopped directly above the access hatch. Both women could hear the characteristic sounds of raiders preparing to breach the seal. Their scanning equipment had finally detected signs of life in the maintenance space. Marina's free hand moved to the grip of her sidearm. Her other remained against Karith's face. She maintained their connection even as they prepared for combat. The alien could taste the human's transition from tender emotion to focused lethality, a change so rapid and complete that it would have been terrifying if Karith hadn't been experiencing similar shifts in her own biochemistry. Together, Marina whispered. Her voice carried both tactical inquiry and deeper meaning. Together, Karith confirmed. She allowed her bioweapon to begin its charging sequence. Her free hair tendrils sampled the air for precise locations of their approaching enemies. The hatch exploded inward in a shower of sparks and twisted metal. 3 raiders in full combat armor appeared in the breach. Marina's weapon discharged twice in the same second the hatch blew. Her first shot took the lead raider center mass. Her second punched through the visor of the one behind him. Karith's bioweapon released a concentrated stream of organic plasma. It struck the third raider before his weapon could clear its holster. The bioelectric discharge overloaded his armor systems. He dropped convulsing to the deck. The engagement lasted less than 4 seconds, but Karith could taste every moment of Marina's emotional state through their growing connection. The spike of aggression during the attack, the satisfaction of successful hits, the immediate return to protective awareness as she checked for additional threats. More will be coming, Marina said. She was already moving toward the destroyed hatch while keeping her weapon ready. Yes, Karith agreed, but she found herself reluctant to lose the physical contact they'd maintained throughout the brief fight. The bonding process was accelerating beyond anything in her species' documented experience. Driven by the combination of combat stress and genuine emotional connection. Marina seemed to sense her reluctance. She turned back for a moment to press her forehead gently against Karith's. The gesture sent new cascades of sensation through the alien's nervous system. "We'll finish this conversation later," Marina promised. Her breath was warm against Karith's facial sensors. "Right now, let's get out of here." They moved together through the facility's damaged corridors. Karith used her enhanced senses to navigate, while Marina provided tactical awareness and firepower. The alien found she could sense Marina's emotional state, even when they weren't touching. She felt the human's alertness and determination like a constant warm presence in her consciousness. The facility's main structure had taken extensive damage during the assault. Entire sections had collapsed or were burning from explosive charges. Emergency lighting flickered intermittently. It created a strobing effect that Karith's eyes adapted to automatically, while Marina relied on the tactical display in her armor's helmet. They encountered 2 more groups of raiders during their escape. Brief engagements where their combat coordination seemed almost telepathic, despite their different fighting styles and weapon systems. Karith began to understand how Marina thought tactically. The human appeared to be learning to read Karith's skin pattern combat displays instinctively. The facility's emergency exit was located 3 levels above their starting point. They had to navigate through sections where structural damage had created improvised climbing routes through collapsed floors and twisted support beams. Marina's human agility complemented Karith's ability to extend her hair tendrils for additional leverage and balance. As they climbed through the damaged structure, Karith became increasingly aware of Marina's physical presence, even when they weren't in direct contact. The bonding process was creating new neural pathways in her brain, pathways dedicated specifically to processing information about this one human's biochemistry and emotional state. "How do you fight so well with someone you've known for less than an hour?" Marina asked during a brief pause in their ascent. Her breathing was slightly labored from the physical exertion. "Among my people, combat bonding is a recognized phenomenon," Karith replied. She tested the stability of a damaged support beam before putting her full weight on it. Two individuals who form connections under extreme stress sometimes develop enhanced coordination abilities. But this is different, isn't it? Marina asked. Karith could taste the humans' growing awareness of their unusual connection. Yes, Karith admitted. I've never experienced anything like this with another of my species, much less with an alien. Her skin patterns dimmed slightly as she considered the implications. My people will find this unprecedented. Marina was quiet for several moments as they continued climbing, but Karith could sense her processing this information on both intellectual and emotional levels. The human's scent carried no traces of rejection or concern, only deeper curiosity and strengthening commitment. Will they try to separate us? Marina asked finally. They will try, Karith replied honestly. Cross-species bonding violates several fundamental principles of our social structure. Then we'd better make sure they don't get the chance, Marina said. With that same fierce determination that Karith was learning to recognize as one of her core personality traits, they reached the facility's main level as the sounds of fighting in the surrounding area began to diminish. Through the emergency exit's reinforced windows, they could see that enemy forces were beginning to withdraw from the facility. Their raid had apparently achieved whatever objectives they'd come for. The immediate danger was passing, but Karith knew their real challenges were just beginning. Once they reported back to their respective commands, questions would be asked about how they'd survived the assault and why they'd been found together in the maintenance areas. The exit led to an external platform that overlooked the broader battlefield. The smoking remains of defensive positions and crashed vehicles showed the scope of the assault. Human and alien rescue teams were already moving through the area, searching for survivors and beginning damage assessment. We'll be separated for debriefing, Marina said. She recognized the approaching rescue personnel. Yes, Karith agreed, but she found the prospect increasingly distressing as their bond continued to strengthen. How long will your people hold you? Unknown, Marina replied. Days, possibly longer if they decide this incident requires detailed investigation. Karith could taste Marina's distress at the separation, a mirror of her own growing anxiety. The bonding process had created needs in both of them that distance would make increasingly difficult to ignore. Find me, Marina said suddenly. She turned to face Karith fully as the rescue teams approached their platform. Whatever they do, whatever they say, find me. I will, Karith promised. She allowed her skin patterns to shift into configurations that among her people would be recognized as an unbreakable vow. Marina reached out one final time. Her fingers brushed against Karith's cheek with a gentleness that sent waves of sensation through the alien's entire nervous system. The human's touch carried emotional markers so intense that Karith's dark skin patterns rippled across her face and neck like living shadow art. The rescue teams reached them before either could say anything more. Human medics immediately moved to treat Marina's head wound, while Karith's own species recovery personnel began scanning her for injuries. The separation felt like a physical tearing. The newly formed neural pathways protested the loss of direct contact with sudden, sharp distress. As they were led away in different directions, Karith turned back once to see Marina watching her over the shoulder of the medic treating her wound. Even at increasing distance, the alien could still sense the human's emotional state. She felt Marina's determination and need like echoes in her own consciousness. The bond was holding, growing stronger despite the physical separation. Karith allowed herself to be guided toward the alien evacuation ship. Already planning how she would circumvent diplomatic protocols and species restrictions to return to Marina's side, because whatever was happening between them was stronger than politics, stronger than species differences, stronger than the fear and prejudice that kept their peoples from truly understanding each other. And Kareth was beginning to understand that humans weren't the only species that didn't break under pressure. 3 days passed like a slow torture. Kareth stood in the medical bay of the diplomatic station. Her skin patterns had remained muted since the separation, like a light slowly dimming. The station's medical officer, Dr. Kentai, reviewed her readings with growing concern. "Your biochemistry shows unprecedented alterations," Dr. Kentai said. Her harmonic tones carried frequencies of clinical worry. "The bonding markers are unlike anything in our medical databases." Kareth kept her patterns carefully controlled. The medical examination was mandatory for all survivors of the facility assault. But she knew the readings would reveal the depth of her connection to the human warrior. "I experienced an unusual stress response during the combat situation," Kareth replied carefully. Though she could sense through her connection with Marina that the human was undergoing similar questioning in another part of the station complex. "Stress responses do not typically result in permanent neurochemical restructuring," Dr. Kentai replied. She consulted her instruments with growing fascination. "Your brain scans show the development of entirely new neural pathways, specifically configured for processing emotional and biochemical data from non-native species." Before Kareth could respond, the medical bay's security alarms activated with a low harmonic tone. The sound indicated unauthorized approach. Through her enhanced senses, Kareth could detect familiar chemical signatures moving rapidly toward their location. Marina's scent reached her a full second before the human appeared in the medical bay's entrance. She had somehow bypassed 3 layers of station security. Her blonde hair was still disheveled from medical treatment. She wore a standard-issue human diplomatic uniform that couldn't quite hide the tactical awareness in her posture. The human's blue eyes found Kareth immediately. The alien felt their bond flare with renewed intensity as the physical distance between them decreased. Marina's emotional state flooded through their connection. Determination, protective anger, an underlying need that matched Kareth's own growing distress. "I need to speak with her," Marina announced. She addressed Dr. Kentai directly despite the diplomatic protocols being violated by her presence. "This is highly irregular," Dr. Kentai replied. Her skin patterns shifted to aggressive configurations. "Human personnel are not permitted in medical facility proceedings." "Then make it informal," Marina said, with the same fierce directness that Kareth had witnessed during their combat situations. "Because I'm not leaving without her." The emotional intensity of Marina's commitment hit Kareth like a physical force. It caused her skin patterns to shift involuntarily. Dr. Kentai recoiled from the intensity while her own patterns shifted to show confusion and growing alarm. "Your bonding displays are affecting my instruments," Dr. Kentai observed with clinical detachment. "This level of biochemical resonance is beyond our previous understanding of interspecies compatibility." Marina stepped further into the medical bay. Her movement brought her within range of Kareth's extended sensory hair tendrils. The alien found herself reaching out unconsciously. Desperate to reestablish physical contact after 3 days of forced separation. "Don't," Dr. Kentai commanded, but Kareth's hair tendrils were already brushing against Marina's extended hand. The moment of contact sent cascades of sensation through both of their nervous systems. Marina's entire body shuddered, while Kareth's skin patterns rippled across her arms and face in waves of deeper pigmentation that seemed to dance beneath the surface. The alien could taste Marina's relief and need. The human seemed to be processing sensory information that her species wasn't equipped to handle. "Fascinating," Dr. Kentai murmured. Her instruments registered unprecedented biochemical activity from both subjects. Their nervous systems are actually adapting to accommodate each other's sensory capabilities. Marina's free hand came up to touch Karith's face. Her fingers traced the skin patterns with growing confidence as she learned to interpret their emotional meanings. The alien's entire sensory network focused on those points of contact. Her respiratory chambers worked to process the complex mixture of human pheromones and emotional markers. "I can feel what you're feeling," Marina whispered. Her voice was filled with wonder. "Not just emotions, but everything. The way light looks to your eyes. The way sound resonates in your body." "Yes," Karith replied. Her harmonic voice produced frequencies that Marina was beginning to understand instinctively. "Your sensory experiences are becoming part of my consciousness as well. I can taste colors the way you see them." "This is unprecedented," Dr. Kentai announced. "They're not just bonding chemically, they're actually sharing sensory processing between their nervous systems." Her patterns shifted to configurations that indicated extreme fascination mixed with growing concern. Such deep integration between alien species could have unpredictable consequences for both individuals and their respective populations. "We don't care about the consequences," Marina said firmly. She had apparently learned to interpret some of the aliens' skin communications. "What we care about is staying together." The humans' determination was absolute. It flooded through their connection with an intensity that made Karith's core temperature rise significantly. Around them, Dr. Kentai continued her pattern discussions with herself. But the alien found herself increasingly focused on Marina's presence, rather than the medical implications of their situation. "Your people will never accept this," Karith said, though her hair tendrils continued their gentle exploration of Marina's face and hair. "Cross-species bonding violates fundamental principles of both our cultures." Marina's smile carried the same fierce quality that Karith had witnessed during combat. "Then we'll have to change both cultures, won't we?" The simple statement contained such complete confidence that Karith found herself believing it, despite every logical argument against their chances of success. Marina's emotional commitment was reshaping the aliens' understanding of what was possible, just as their bond was reshaping both of their nervous systems. Dr. Kentai made a series of harmonic sounds that indicated formal decision-making. Given the unprecedented nature of this bonding phenomenon, the medical board will require extensive study before determining appropriate responses. Both subjects will be held for observation and testing. Karith's skin patterns immediately shifted to aggressive configurations, while Marina's body tensed for action. Neither was willing to accept separation or treatment that might reverse their developing connection. "No," Marina said with quiet intensity. "We've already lost 3 days. We're not losing any more time." "You have no authority to refuse medical directives," Dr. Kentai replied. But her patterns showed uncertainty as she took in the combined hostile response from both bonded individuals. "Actually, I do," Marina said. She pulled a small device from her uniform pocket. "I'm officially requesting asylum under the Interspecies Cooperation Treaty, Article 15, which grants protection to individuals whose lives would be endangered by forced separation from alien partners." Dr. Kentai's patterns flickered with confusion as she processed this unexpected legal maneuver. Article 15 had never been invoked before. It had been included in the treaty as a theoretical provision that no one expected would ever be necessary. Based on their current biochemical readings, Dr. Kentai consulted her instruments with renewed interest. Forced separation would indeed cause severe physiological distress to both individuals. Their nervous systems have become interdependent to a degree that isolation might be life-threatening. Marina squeezed Karith's hand gently. Her satisfaction at the medical confirmation flowed through their bond like warm light. The alien found herself amazed at the human's tactical planning. She had somehow researched diplomatic law while undergoing her own official questioning. Asylum requests require review by the full diplomatic assembly, Dr. Kentai said after consulting her medical protocols. Both individuals will remain in protective custody pending that review. Together, Marina said firmly. The treaty specifies that asylum seekers cannot be separated from their protected partners during the review process. Dr. Kentai's patterns shifted to configurations that Karith recognized as frustrated acceptance. Very well. Joint protective custody in the diplomatic station's residential section, under constant monitoring. Marina's emotional response to this victory was so intense that Karith's skin patterns flared bright enough to reflect off the medical bay's polished surfaces. The alien could taste the human's relief and triumph, mixed with deeper feelings of affection and commitment that sent waves of pleasure through her enhanced nervous system. As they were escorted from the medical bay, Karith found herself marveling at how completely her existence had been transformed in less than a week. From a routine diplomatic assignment to combat bonding with an alien species, to potentially reshaping interspecies law through their unprecedented connection. Marina's hand remained intertwined with her hair tendrils as they walked. The human's steady presence provided an anchor point for Karith's consciousness as they faced an uncertain future together. Whatever comes next, they would face it as a bonded pair, their combined strength greater than the sum of their individual capabilities. And perhaps that would be enough to change the galaxy, one diplomatic precedent at a time. 2 weeks later, they stood in the main diplomatic hearing chamber. The asylum review had attracted attention throughout the interspecies community. Representatives from multiple civilizations had gathered to witness this unprecedented case. Marina presented their legal arguments with confident precision. Her case was strengthened by 2 weeks of intensive preparation and supporting evidence from their medical studies. Karith provided subtle skin pattern displays that reinforced the human's statements while demonstrating the depth of their bonding connection. The evidence presented by both medical teams confirms that forced separation would cause significant harm to both individuals. The human diplomatic director announced, after reviewing the scientific data, human diplomatic policy supports granting asylum in cases where such harm would result from separation from bonded partners. The Alien Council leaders' patterns showed reluctant agreement. While this bonding phenomenon remains unprecedented in our experience, the medical evidence indicates that reversal attempts could be life-threatening for both subjects. The neutral observers delivered their advisory opinion after private consultation. Asylum should be granted based on the medical evidence. The case should be used to establish formal protocols for future interspecies bonding situations. The joint decision was announced. Asylum and protective status would be granted to both individuals. A joint research program would be established to better understand the bonding phenomenon and its implications for interspecies relations. As they left the hearing chamber together, Marina's hand firmly clasped with Karith's hair tendrils. Both realized that their personal victory had become something much larger. They were no longer just two individuals who had found love in combat. They were pioneers in a new form of interspecies cooperation. The station's main corridor was lined with representatives from both species. Some showed approval and curiosity. Others displayed concern or disapproval. But all recognized that something fundamental had changed in the relationship between their peoples. Through their bond, Marina and Karith shared the satisfaction of achievement mixed with anticipation for whatever challenges and opportunities lay ahead. They had fought for the right to stay together. In doing so, they had opened a door that could never be closed again. Whatever came next, They would face it as partners in the truest sense, their combined capabilities greater than either could achieve alone. And perhaps that was exactly what the galaxy needed. Proof that differences could be bridges rather than barriers when approached with courage, commitment, and open hearts. The future was unwritten, but it would be written together.